So why is TikTok such a perfect name for an app that is indicative of the decline of the West? Well, if you think about TikTok, TikTok, what does that sound like? Sounds like a clock, right? And if you think back to Peter Pan, Jordan Peterson talks about this, is where I learned it from. But in the movie Peter Pan, there's the crocodile that's chasing Captain Hook around. It's got a clock stuck in his stomach. And according to Jordan Peterson, he talks about how that's a sign of the clock of death, right? It's coming for everybody, right? The thing is going to eat you, right? But everything lives and everything dies, and that clock never stops ticking. And that's with societies, like we're talking about with the West. That's with individuals. That's on the micro, that's on the macro, big and small. And so I think about the app TikTok and I think about what we're using it for. And yes, there are good uses of social media and apps. And I think that if we really want to reverse the collapse and we want to change the world, change ourselves, these are the tools that we're going to use to do that. I think they are crucial, essential to our development as a species, whether that's on the individual, on the micro individual, or on the macro as a society. So they're great tools, but how are we using them? And so I think we're using them in a way that is very superficial, very topical, just dancing and doing this and that. And it's like, hey, that's all fun. But if you're living in and I've talked about this, right, with the collapse, if you're living in a society that has a ton of problems and you're not doing anything about that and you're just kind of dancing, or you're just like, wasting away hours and hours going from one video to the next, and it's not giving you anything, it's not helping out the situation that you're in, that's a recipe for disaster. And so I think about that name TikTok, I think about the clock of time that just keeps on moving. And like anything, any organism, whether that's a cell, whether that's a human body, whether that's a ecosystem, whether that's a society, there's always the birth, the growth, the decline, and that's the story of life, right? Things don't live forever, and they come up and they come down. So TikTok is one of the most popular apps now, gaining more popularity, but our usage of it is very indicative of what our society is going through as a decline. And I've made these videos about the decline in the West. You can add TikTok to the list. Again, it's not that there's something wrong with TikTok, because these are great tools. Like I said, we can share information, we can share our thoughts, we can share so much with these tools, but how are we using them? And I think that we're using them, and it's a warning, right? The movie Peter Pan can be a warning, right? With the clock coming after you. If you understand it, then you can do something about it. But if you don't understand it, which I think a lot of people don't, they're just going through their life and enjoying, and hey, more power to you. That's okay. You're allowed to have fun. You're allowed to enjoy the fruits of our labor of the West, because we've had such a great run. But again, I think we're sliding down that hill and it's picking up speed. Inflation is going up. Gas, probably got gas the other day and it was the most expensive it's ever been. And we just are kind of going with it. But it's definitely our time. Our time is up. That clock is catching up with us, and we're going to need to do something about it. And dancing and having fun is great, but when we got problems, it ain't going to help out. It's just making the situation worse than we need it. So I thought that was interesting. If you haven't, look at Jordan Peterson's he's got a bunch of different lectures. I'm sure you can find clips of him talking about Peter Pan, which is a great, story on itself. But he talks about the entire movie. I was turned on to him from a lecture he did about the movie Pinocchio, and then I went through his whole lecture series about personality and psychology. This was before he became popular. He would just post videos of his lectures at the University of Toronto, and I just went through all the lectures like I was a student of his class. It was great. But one of the ones that turned me on was about Pinocchio, and he breaks down the movie Pinocchio from a psychological point of view, and then he also does that with Peter Pan on another. I don't know if it's in that same lecture series, if it was personality or maps of meaning, or he's got a bunch of courses online that you can find in his old videos. Now he probably posts so many videos, it's all the way in the back. But very, very, very fascinating, and it'll give you more of an insight into why I'm talking about that. And again, it's just kind of the clock that ticks for every organism, everything. It has a life cycle, even a star, even a planet. All of these things have a birth, they have a growth, they have a decline, and they have a death. And I think that we're kind of in that phase right now. It doesn't mean that we're going to completely disappear. Just like Roman Empire is gone, but there is still a city named Rome and people still live there. So it's evolving into something new. But I think that if we heed these warnings and we can understand these concepts and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be using these things for this reason, for example, TikTok, we should be using it in a different way, then we'll be able to come out on top and we'll be in a better situation than we left it. And I think that's been the story of humanity. We've always gone through ups and downs, but over time, it's always on an upward trajectory in regard to quality of life and the kind of gathering and controlling and manipulating our world to make things better suited for us, human beings. Now, maybe not the best for other animals or other things. That's one of the things that people talk about with us and polluting and greenhouse gases and all these types of things for the planet and saving the environment, blah, blah, blah. But we got to look out for ourselves, right? And as we evolve, we'll get better at making things a better balance with the rest of those things. But we've been pretty good at doing what we need to do to survive. And that's our DNA, survive and replicate. Just like any other organism, that's their job, that's our job as well. And we've been very successful. But I think now we're getting in our own way, and TikTok might be one of those reasons. So until next time, I'll see you then.